I never thought a simple mailbox could start a war, but after the fifth time the HOA patrol smashed mine, I built one they could never take down. The next crash didn't just wreck their SUV, it blew open a battle that dragged the whole neighborhood into chaos. And in the middle of it all, it was me standing there with a mailbox that refused to fall. I'm Curtis Delaney, 52 years old, a rancher on the edge of Abilene, Texas. My land isn't huge, but it's mine-fenced pastures, a small barn, a shop where I fix equipment, the kind of place where peace and pride are supposed to live side by side. But lately, every ounce of that peace kept getting flattened literally by the so-called security patrols our HOA insisted we needed. White SUVs with flashing lights, volunteers they called them, though they drove like bullies on parade. It started with a sickening crunch one February evening, the kind of sound that makes your stomach twist before you even see the damage. I walked out to find my mailbox lying in the ditch, split in half like kindling. Bad luck, I told myself. Accidents happen. I put up another one. 2 weeks later, same story. Another SUV, another crunch. By the third, I wasn't laughing it off anymore. I called the HOA office, asked for answers. A receptionist promised to pass it along, but nobody called back. At the next meeting, I stood up, laid it out plain 3 mailboxes destroyed all by their patrols. Gregory Winslow, the chairman, leaned back in his chair like a king on a throne and said, "Curtis, it happens. Roads are tight out here. Mailboxes get hit." The smirk on his face burned hotter than the Texas sun. By the 5th time, I was boiling. My neighbor Janice shook her head as she walked her dog past the wreck. "They must be doing it on purpose," she said. "Sherman?" Another neighbor whispered in the grocery aisle, "Don't forget you went toe-to-toe with Winslow last year about that fence rule. He doesn't forget." At home, Renee, my wife, tried to calm me. Maybe move the mailbox closer to the house, she suggested. My son Caleb leaned forward, eyes wide. "Dad, you think they're targeting you?" I didn't want to say it out loud, didn't want to sound paranoid. But deep down, I knew it didn't matter whether it was carelessness or revenge. What mattered was the message. You can't win. And for a while I almost believed them. I'd sit on the porch at night staring at the road, replaying the crashes in my head. Folks were talking. Edith, a nosy neighbor, told me straight, "You're just stirring the pot, Curtis. It's a mailbox, not the Alamo." Others muttered at the hardware store, saying I was looking for a fight. I remember gripping a bag of nails so hard my knuckles went white. For the first time I wondered, maybe I am the problem. Maybe I should just let it go. But letting go isn't in my nature. My father worked steel. I worked the oil fields. I know what it means to fight for what you own. "Sitting there with Renee," I whispered, "they think I'll quit. They think they can run me over until I give in." She placed her hand on mine, asked softly, "And will you?" I shook my head. Not a chance. That's when the idea took root. If they wanted to keep destroying my mailbox, fine. But this time the mailbox would hit back. Nights in my shop turned into war plans. Sparks flew as I welded steel plates, set a frame reinforced with rebar, anchored 3 feet deep in concrete. Outside, I disguised it with cedar planks stained to look like any ordinary country mailbox. But inside, it was armor. Caleb walked in one evening, eyes wide. "Dad, what exactly are you building?" I lifted my mask, wiped sweat from my brow, and said, "A mailbox they'll never forget." And they didn't. One afternoon, the sound ripped across the ranch, louder, heavier than before. Not the thin crunch of metal, but a meaty thud, steel against steel. I ran out to find a patrol SUV crumpled against my mailbox hood, folded bumper shattered. The driver staggered out wide-eyed. My mailbox stood untouched, gleaming in the sun like a soldier that wouldn't bow. Neighbors gathered. Janice gasped, "Lord have mercy, that thing didn't even move." Sherman chuckled, cane tapping the gravel. "Looks like you built yourself a fortress, Curtis." Edith scowled. "You'll get sued." "What if someone got hurt?" I snapped back. Where was that concern when they kept smashing mine? That night, Gregory himself pulled up in his black sedan, eyes burning. "Curtis, what is this?" he demanded. I leaned against the post, calm. "It's a mailbox stronger than the last 5. That's all." His voice rose. "This is reckless. You've created a hazard." I pointed at the wrecked SUV. "No, Greg. The hazard is your patrol that can't drive straight." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. For the first time, Gregory looked shaken. He hissed, "This isn't over," and stormed off. But he wasn't bluffing. By the next morning, the neighborhood Facebook page was on fire. Half the comments called me a hero, the other half called me a menace. Gregory posted himself declaring my mailbox a violation, an unsafe obstruction. People whispered at the diner. "He built a tank. It's a booby trap." Renee scrolled through her phone, her hands trembling. "They're coming after you," she said. And she was right. Within days, a letter arrived, official HOA notice. Remove the mailbox or face fines and legal action. Gregory even showed up at my door with Edith at his side, waving a folder like a weapon. "1 week, Curtis. Take it down or the board will take steps." I looked him dead in the eye. "Go ahead. Fine me. This box isn't coming down." That's when things turned ugly. Patrol SUVs started lingering at the end of my road headlights, glaring at my house. One driver rolled down his window and sneered, "Heard you built a fancy mailbox. Shame what it does to a truck." Another morning, Renee found a note pinned to our gate. "Take it down before someone gets hurt." The intimidation was real, and I'll admit it broke me for a moment. Sitting at the kitchen table with that note in my hand, I wondered if I'd made a mistake. Renee's voice shook. "They'll ruin us, Curtis. Fines may be worse." Caleb slammed his fist on the table, furious. I stayed silent, staring at the paper. Was I turning into the villain of my own story? Was Edith right? But then I thought of every meeting where Gregory brushed me off every time I paid out of pocket, while the patrols laughed every whisper, painting me as the troublemaker. No, I wasn't wrong. They were. And I'd rather bleed fighting than bend and live on my knees. So when the lawsuit came, I didn't flinch. A plain envelope legal jargon, Gregory's signature at the bottom, unsafe obstruction violation of community standards. I hired attorney Maxine Porter, tough as nails. She flipped through the papers and smirked. "They're reaching. Mailboxes answer to postal law, not HOA egos. We'll hold." I finally exhaled. "So we can win." She leaned back. "Maybe. But Greg isn't here to win. He's here to wear you down." And boy did he try. The next HOA meeting was a circus. Gregory, red-faced behind the mic, thundered, "This man divides our community." I stood up, voice shaking but strong. "No, I'm protecting what's mine. Your patrol destroyed 5 of my mailboxes, and now you want me to bow? Not a chance." The room erupted, half clapped, half hissed. Sherman shouted from the back, "Greg, you just don't like that. Curtis stood up to you." Gregory banged the table, adjourned in fury, but the damage was done. His control was slipping. At home, the pressure mounted. Neighbors either waved in solidarity or crossed the street to avoid me. Renee lost sleep. Caleb faced rumors at school, and still those SUVs circled slow. It felt like the whole neighborhood was holding its breath. And then just like that, the fight ended. 2 weeks before the trial, Maxine called. They dropped it, she said. Too much community pushback. Too much attention. Greg couldn't risk losing in court. I sat in silence, letting the words sink in. After months of being dismissed, threatened, and branded the problem, the case was gone. My mailbox still stood. And Gregory. He lost not just the lawsuit, but his grip on everyone who'd finally seen through him. That's where the story ends. Not with celebration, not with champagne, but with the image of me standing on my porch watching headlights pass slow and careful, my mailbox still shining at the edge of the road. Because here's the truth. Respect isn't given, it's taken back. And if you don't stand your ground, they'll run you over forever.